Hello, my name is Tony de Saulles and I work as an author and an illustrator. For a long time I've been illustrating the Horrible Science series of books. But in between horrible science projects I write and illustrate my own books, the most recent of which is the B-Boy trilogy. So a trilogy is a set of 3 books, and this is the first one, Clash of the Killer Queens. The second book is Attack of the Zombies, and the last book is called Curse of the Vampire Mites. So that's what I'd like to talk about today, B-Boy and the wonderful world of bees. So let's go back to the first book. B-Boy is all about a little boy called Melvin who lives at the top of a block of flats, and he keeps a beehive on the roof. And he's always going on at school to his schoolmates about how amazing bees are. And of course bees are amazing because they pollinate the plants that we grow for food, so they're very important. They also give us honey, which is a great thing as well. One day, Melvin's teacher, who's called Mrs. Wilkes, invites him to read his bee project at school assembly. Now, it's a big school, so he's having to go up on stage in front of hundreds of children to read his project, and he's decided to wear his bee suit, which has a veil and a hood to protect him from bees. Let me read you a little bit from the first book and you'll find out how Melvin got the nickname of B-Boy. The registers have been called. This is it. The whole school is waiting with excitement to hear my project, but I'm trembling as I step onto the school stage. My beekeeper's suit has a hood with mesh at the front to keep the bees out. I can normally see okay, but the hall lights are very bright, so I'm walking like a nervous zombie. 300 confused faces stare up at me. And now Melvin Meadley is going to give his talk about... Mrs. Wilkes peers down at her notes. Bees. Quickly, Melvin, step forward. Nobody claps as I make my way to the front of the stage. I clear my throat. Good morning. You might know already that I am a beekeeper, and today I'm going to tell you all about my bees. For human beings to stay alive, we need plants to eat. But plants need bees to pollinate them so they can reproduce and make more plants. That is why bees are so important. No bees, no world. Phew, it's going okay. They seem interested. Even the new girl in our class, pretty cool. Excellent. He carries on reading. But honeybees are in trouble. Bzz. Hey, there's something buzzing in my hood. When farmers spray their crops with chemicals, bzz, it's a bee. There's sniggering from the audience as I struggle to unzip my hood. I know I shouldn't panic, but I can't help it. Bzz. How did it get in? It's going to sting me on the face. There's a bee in my hood, Mrs. Wilkes. Bzz. The chuckles turn to laughter. Somebody at the front starts buzzing. It's troublemaker Norman Crudwell. Bzzz. Mrs. Wilkes tuts and fumbles impatiently for the zip on my hood. Keep still. Mrs. Wilkes is retiring soon. Hooray! I hope our new teacher isn't as grumpy. Now the rest of the school has joined in. Bzzz. The bee suit was a silly idea, Melvin, Mrs. Wilkes hisses under her breath when she finally finds the zip. You should have... Zip! Eek! The bee whizzes out of my hood and does 2 loop-the-loops and disappears up Mrs. Wilkes' dress. She's dancing around the stage, singing too. Ooh, 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 ah. The 300 faces are now staring at Mrs. Welk's pants. She has been stung on the bottom. Ouch! Crudwell snorts with joy. Nice one, B-boy. B-boy? Where did that come from? Seconds later, everybody's chanting, B-boy, B-boy, B-boy. Disaster. Pretty Cur has joined in too. Beetroot-faced Mrs. Welks has had enough. Silence! Norman and Melvin, see me after morning break. You can clean out Stinky and Whiffer, the school gerbils. Now back to the classroom. Oh, brilliant. Now Mrs. Welks has got it in for me, and Crudwell is being punished too. They're going to make my life hell. And what about B-boy, my new nickname? I guess it doesn't sound too bad, but I don't think they meant it as a compliment. So there we are. That's how Melvin got the nickname of B-boy. And now it's time for you to hear the B-boy song. I like honey, that's 'cause I'm a bee. I make it out of nectar, and it's sticky and it's lovely. Well, I've been buzzing in the summer sun, and if anyone attacks me, I've got a stinger on my bum. Yeah, yeah. Woo, if anyone attacks me, I've got a stinger on my bum. I hate Mr. Wasp, thanks to him my sister's dead. He snipped her legs and wings off, and he nibbled off her head. But if I sting him, well, that means death for me, because stinging pulls my guts out, and that's messy. Yeah, yeah. Woo, stinging pulls my guts out, and that's messy. We need bees. We need B-boy. We need bees. We need B-boy. Yes, well, his name is Melvin Meadley, and he gets teased at school. He tries to tell them about his bees, but they say, bees aren't cool. But planet Earth needs bees to pollinate the flowers and trees, 'cause without them life will be tough, and we'll end up eating lots of horrible stuff. No more apples, no more pears, no more cotton for your underwear. No, no, don't ask the beetles and don't ask the ants, 'cause they can't grow cotton for your vest and your pants. No more strawberries, no more lemons, no coffee, no carrots, no watermelons. We need bees. Yes, we need bees. We need bees. We need B-boy. Let's draw a beehive. So we start off by drawing a box. A beehive is where bees live. They make their honey inside, and baby bees are born inside in the bottom box, which is bigger than the top two. So it's 3 boxes stacked on top of each other with a roof to keep them warm and dry. This is the front door where they come and go. It's very wide because it can get very busy in the middle of summer, but it's not very high, and that's so that they can guard the front entrance from wasps that might be attacking. This little shelf is the landing board where the bees come and land when they come back from the flowers where they've been collecting pollen and nectar, and they land on the landing board before going indoors. Here are some legs I've drawn to show that the beehive is above ground and warm and dry, and some cartoon grass. Let's draw a few little bees. Now, before this modern sort of beehive was invented, beekeepers used to have to destroy the whole nest, kill all the bees, to actually get the honey inside. But now, with these modern beehives, and it's the sort of beehive I've got, because I am a beekeeper, and that Melvin in the book has, this modern beehive has frames in it, so we can take frames of honey out and get the honey without destroying the whole colony of bees. Now, what am I drawing up here? Well, it's one of the bees. It's a close-up of one of the worker bees. Worker bees are all female. Nearly all the bees in a beehive are worker bees. They do all the jobs like guarding the entrance, feeding the babies, feeding the queen, making honey, building wax, honeycomb, collecting pollen, collecting nectar, taking out the dead. There's lots and lots of jobs to be done inside the beehive. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 legs. And I'll put some little lines on to show the wings are buzzing. And then we do another curly line to show that this little worker bee has flown out of the hive. Perhaps she's going off to find some more flowers where she can collect pollen and nectar. Nectar is what they turn into honey, and by flying from flower to flower, she will take pollen from one flower to another and actually pollinate the flowers. We talked about pollination earlier on. Here is a male bee. There aren't so many male bees. They're the daddies. That's their only job, is to be the daddy bees, and they don't do anything else. The worker bees do all the work. The drones, that's what the male bees are called, have big eyes and fat bodies and 6 legs, of course, just like the other bees, but they don't have a stinger. Drone bees, the male bees, can't sting. So let's show him flying out of the hive with a few zoom lines, and let's give him a label. So there might be as many as 50,000 worker bees in a hive, but probably only a few hundred drone bees. So there we are, there's the male bees. Now, what's the missing bee? Well, of course, it is the most important bee in the whole hive. And there's only one of them, and she is the queen. Look, there's her crown. Do some little antennae sticking out the top and draw her little face. Now, the queen bee is the biggest bee of all because she's full of eggs. She spends her whole life in the bottom layer of the beehive, laying eggs and making new bees. So a beehive is like 2 factories. It's like a bee factory with new bees being made all the time. And of course, it's a honey factory as well, because they have to make honey so that they've got food to keep them alive through the winter months. That's why bees make honey. So if we take some of their honey, we have to replace it with sugar syrup. Otherwise, they'll starve because there's no flowers for them to land on in the winter. So there are the 3 bees, and now let's draw Bee Boy. He has big eyes, just like the bees that he owns, and a little mouth. Keep his face quite small because otherwise he'll look too grown up, and we want him to look like a boy who'd probably be in top juniors, I should think. Let's draw his hair, spiky hair, and give him his t-shirt in just a second. Let's put some eyebrows in. There we are. Right, let's draw his little t-shirt. I'll probably colour it in a minute, make it black, because it'll give him a bit more character. And if you look in the books, you'll see that he's got a black t-shirt. Do his hand. This one's closed because he's flying upwards with a sort of fist. And there's his little body. Put the stripes in and give him some insect legs. So he's got 4 legs and 2 arms. It adds up to 6 because, of course, all insects have 6 legs. There's his wings. all insects have wings, whether they're beetles or bees or flies or ladybirds. Let's put some black into his t-shirt just to make him stand out a little bit more. There we are, colour him in, and perhaps I'd better give him a few zoom lines to show that he's been in the beehive as well. And we'll put a label on, Bee Boy. I hope I haven't been drawing too fast. Of course, you can just pause it to catch up if you need to. But there's Bee Boy and his bees.